for round 21 of the 2025 Men's National Premier League. It sees your mighty Marconi Stallions FC taking on Sydney FC. The starting lineup for your Marconi Stallions is at number 1, the goalkeeper, James Hilton. Number 2, Tyron Burney. Number 5, Lachlan Griffiths. Number 6, Don Costanzo. Number 7, Franco Meyer. Number 8, James Bayless. And number 10, your skipper for this afternoon, Marco Yesic. Number 16, Liam Yuli. Number 17, Damien Sickness. Number 18, George Daniel. And we welcome number 42, the new addition to the side, Tas Modu Kutas. On the bench this afternoon's clash, number 9, Kyle Cementi. Number 12, Julian Monge. Number 14, Jack True. Number 20, Patrick Williams. Number 24, Matej Busek. Number 35, Sebastian Kisi. Now for the away side for this afternoon's clash against Marconi and Sydney FC. Number 4, Joseph Palisic. Number 5, Corey Cronin. Number 6, Tyler Williams. Number 9, Matthias McAllister. Number 10, Tay Henley. Number 14, Jared Middleton. Number 26, Dylan Rose. The skipper, number 27, Kyle Shaw. Number 29, Joe Lacey. Number 30, Gus Hutzelt. Number 34, Ethan Dyer. And on the bench, number 1, Jacob Kremen Cowan. Number 2, Nicholas Zdrilic. Number 3, Reef Fabius. Number 15, Samuel Lancaster. Number 18, Oscar Gultiken. And number 32, Junior Conde. Marconi Stallions FC acknowledges and appreciates the support of its 2025 sponsors. Brian's Lawyers need expert legal advice, that's what they do. Stratbrook Refrigeration, Elias Constructions, Peter Warren Ford, Legia and Mardica Football. The Football New South Wales Men's National Premier League competition is proudly sponsored by MIDA, official match ball of New South Wales NPL. Attendees are reminded they are bound by the Football Australia Spectator Code of Behaviour together with the terms and conditions of this venue, and any breaches may result in disciplinary action and sanctions. Just a reminder as well, the 2025 Marconi Stallions home jersey and merchandise is now available for purchase at the ticket gate, and a limited quantity of our 2024 merchandise is available at discounted prices from the Club Marconi reception. Reporting out the away side this afternoon, City FC, your home side, the Marconi Stallions.
Well, what a difference a few weeks can make. Just 21 days ago, when Marconi were last here at home, the Stallions ruled the roost in NPL New South Wales and were gearing up for a top-of-the-table clash against Rockdale that could have strengthened their grip on a potential premiership. Instead, defeat on that day sparked a 3-week winless run that has left their tilt at the league title teetering. 3 points adrift of the league leaders Illingdon, and they are in desperate need of a win, Marconi, on their return to Marconi Stadium today. It's round 21, NPL New South Wales action. It's Marconi Stallions against Sydney FC. It's a massive clash at both ends of the top 6. The visiting Sky Blues arriving here in Bossley Park in pretty desperate need of victory themselves, trying to keep fleeting finals hopes alive. A heavy defeat to Apia Leichhardt last week out at the Illingdon Sports Centre, taking a bit of the shine off a headline-catching 6-0 defeat of Manly the week prior. And while they do arrive at Marconi Stadium to face an opponent whose form has been flagging a little bit of late, it's not going to be an easy ask at all. Jimmy Van Weeren's men are 6 games winless and 5 games goalless against the reigning champions. It is a tall task. This is a Marconi side who have not been themselves in the last few weeks. That will need to change today as they look to gain ground on Rockdale Illingdon, who play elsewhere in New South Wales today. And this Stallion side, who have been dealing with a bit of an injury crisis at the back, have been handed a massive boost. Just the one change from that defeat to Sydney Olympic last week. Mate Busek drops to the bench, and he is replaced by former A-League name Tas Mudakudis, the headline signing that had been rumoured to arrive at Marconi Stadium this week has arrived before our eyes. 48 A-League appearances to his name, most recently of Perth Glory, formerly of the Western Sydney Wanderers, making his first NPL New South Wales appearance in this competition for the first time since 2017, a former Sydney Olympic junior. It is the visitors who got us underway, and it is Tas Mudakudis, the man you'll be able to see at the back, wearing number 42 today. Despite the fact he's got number 11 on the shorts, it is number 42 for him. So Marconi fans who are watching on can pick out their new man. And a couple of changes. A bit of a mixed bag for the visiting Sydney FC side. Big boost between the sticks, where first choice goalkeeper in the making, some might argue in waiting, Gus Hofsloot returns to the starting 11, replacing Alex Savadinos. Well, they have lost their academy captain, Lockie Middleton, today, so just one half of the Middleton twins out there today in the form of Jared, who you'll be able to see wearing number 14 at the back, and replacing him is young Ethan Dyer. So a real test for Peter Sekenis' side today. Obviously, a game that the latter would suggest they enter into as favourites, but they've been, at least on the face of recent results, a long way shy of the solid, composed presence we've become used to seeing. This might be a chance to change that, but not to be for Franco Maya. Found beautifully, though, with a spearing ball by Marko Jesic, a man who the Sky Blues will be very wary of today. I mean, you're always wary of the danger that Marko Jesic can pose, but Sydney FC over the years have proved to be one of his preferred opponents. 7 goals against the Sky Blues, including the match winner last time they met earlier in the season in the blistering heat out at Rockdale that day, a 1-0 win. Here is another star striker in Matthias McAllister, who's just lost the ball, and Jesic couldn't feed it back to a teammate. McAllister goes toe-to-toe with the imposing presence of Lockie Griffiths. All fair in the eyes of the referee, Danny Horsted, as that ball is slipped towards the Jesic direction, but the offside flag came straight up, would have drawn play dead. Had the Marconi captain made a real attack on the football. Hofsloot playing with fire, but doing so well. Picked off, though. Meyer. It's wide now for Sakenis. The high cross is not particularly handsome, and given how far Gus Hofsloot was out of his line, or off his line, when that ball was turned over, I've rather cooked the goose, Marconi. That could have been a much bigger chance than perhaps the cross credited. I was almost surprised to see Franco Meyer not attempt to chip on the keeper, because he's certainly a player. He's the 26-year-old who has the spectacular in his locker. Just 3 goals this season. Getting the chance to play in a more advanced role today as Jesic stands it up into the middle. It should be catching practice for Hofsloot, it is. And we have seen in the wake of this defensive crisis for the reigning champions, Meyer pushed back to a fullback role. Oh, that is beautiful from Franco Meyer. Absolutely dazzling stuff from the Stallion, but the shot not quite matching the build-up play that allowed it. Well, that is a warning sign of what Franco Meyer will be able to do with a more advanced license today. A position where he started out in his earlier days in the competition with St George City, fullback area, but really found his own as an attacker here at Marconi Stadium. Tyron Burney can go back into the fullback slot and rid himself of potential central defensive duties. They've tried a few players out in that position. No such troubles with Tasmuda Kudus to call on today. Middleton. Looks it over for Corey Cronin. A couple of players who have traded numbers today, as Rose has his pass picked off by Griffiths, who wants to get the Stallions going swiftly. It's Sakenis up against Dyer, the young fullback. Finds support inside in the form of Costanzo. Sydney FC able to hold their lines. Fascinating to see today how Jimmy Van Weeren's men, well, I say men, some of them are legally boys, this academy team, but how they answer back after a 6-2 defeat to RPL last week that would have really knocked the wind out of their sails, because they were building some form and looking like the team from outside the top 6 that could potentially threaten those finals places, or the fringes of the finals places. was a disappointing defeat, not because they would expect to beat Apia as that ball comes over the top for Damien Sekenis, but comfortably handled by Kyle Shaw, who is one of a number of players. Oh, that's a poor turnover. Meyer with the fancy flick, and Jesic couldn't reach it. Joseph Kalasic in the right place at the right time. Certainly wouldn't have expected to pencil in 3 points against Apia last week, Sydney, but to have conceded 6, especially the week after scoring 6 against Manly, was particularly uncharacteristic for a side who, especially compared to other A-League Academy teams, have been actually fairly solid at the back this season. Daniel collects a bit of contact, and so the referee, Danny Horsted, is going to offer up a set piece in a pretty tantalising position for the feet of Dom Costanzo. He's got a new man in Tas Motakudis to aim at the back post. Not quite at the same level as the towering presence of Nathan Milgate in years gone by. It's flicked in at the near post, in fact. And whether it was Bayless or Jesic who got the final touch, not entirely clear, but looked as though the flick required saving from Hofsloot. And so a second set piece in quick succession for Dom Costanzo. First goal in this game, oh so critical. Costanzo's curler doesn't meet a willing target. Not totally cleared initially by Sydney. Up and under from Costanzo. Sekenis lurking. Motakudis picks up the spillage. Ends the ball into the box, but it meets the same fate. Costanzo, border yard with his first touch. 2 Sydney FC defenders for company. Not quite able to beat them all, but can win a corner. So Marconi, as we drift past more towards the 10-minute mark here at Marconi Stadium, just starting to increase the pressure a little bit. In from Costanzo, bouncing delivery, struck first time at the top of the penalty area by George Daniel, and only 1 goal to his name this season. And Marconi colours going to have to do a little bit better than that if he wants to double his money today. Yeah, the first goal, it's always a bit of a commentary cliche to say that the first goal in a game is so important, but we know how good this Marconi side can be defending from the front. They like to take a lead and sit on it, trust their defence this season. They've lost that solidity in recent weeks. Meyer darts the eyes up. Disguise pass, works out for Bernie. Yuli looks to return the favour and does so. Bernie to the byline, but his touch escaped him at the crucial moment. Nice return pass though, really well weighted from Liam Yuli. We had a renaissance in the second half of this season, starting 7 of the last 8 games now. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in the crowd here, Bossley Park, he might be able to pick out his younger brother Reese, who's recently returned to Australia from Belgium to sign for Sydney FC. Another free kick. One in a enterprising area for Marconi. It's Marko Jesic who collects the illegal attention of a Sydney FC defender this time around. Well, they haven't really troubled the goal of Gus Hofsloot just yet. I fancy Damien, or Peter Sekenis rather, his father, will be quietly pleased with the professional manner in which his side have approached this game so far, although he won't be quite as happy with that delivery from Dom Costanzo. Easy pickings in the end. Kalisic. Lacey gets it through the legs. Bernie in to provide support, and another free kick. A very stop-start game, this one so far. And Joe Lacey, just a week removed from his 18th birthday, is pretty stern talking to about that one from the referee. One of a number of supreme talents in this Sydney FC Academy side. As that was played into danger by the Sky Blues. Sekenis couldn't come up with it. Yuli does. Short it goes for Costanzo. Wants to drive at his marker. Costanzo can't find the cross again. And he will be swiftly back on corner duties. He's been a very busy man in the last 5 minutes. His last couple have not been his best. We know what a high ceiling he is capable of. And that one's pretty good. It's very good. It had to be helped away from the line by Matthias McAllister. Bernie all the way back to James Hilton. Marconi really turning the screw right now. Can they capitalise on their control? They've coughed it up. Lacey for McAllister. And on the overlap was Tay Headley. McAllister forced to retreat. And even if Marconi are taking the bulk of possession in this game, they will have to be wary of the threat posed by a man in Matthias McAllister, who is in, one would argue, the form of his life so far. Still only 18. 8 goals in his last 4 games. 5 of those coming against Manly a fortnight ago. He scored in every single one of those games. 12 for the season now. 3rd in the Golden Boot race. Middleton hits for the safety of Hofsloot. Well, I say safety. It's a bit of a hospital return ball from the Sydney shot stopper. Meyer, a left-footed ball. The sting taken out of it before it reaches the goal of Gus Hofsloot. Headley. gets on the charge. Cronin in support. They can be really dangerous in those wide areas. Sydney FC. Marconi trying to turn defence into attack very quickly. Hofslut off his line to deny supply to Marko Jesic. Yuli was sold a little short by the pass. Mutakudis in to mop up the mess. He does arrive at Marconi Stadium with serious pedigree where the NPL is concerned. That's Mutakudis. This one, will it sit up for McAllister? The answer, no. It's new central defender, Marconi, happy to leave it in the feet of James Hilton. I mentioned his A-League experience. Breaking out onto the scene with the Wanderers, but also spent time in the professional system of Canada as well, where we've seen a few players travel over the years. Okay, Jesic is making himself a bit of a nuisance. Lacey, perhaps scared by the pressure of Lockie Griffiths closing him down. 48 appearances, nearly a half century in the local professional competition for Mutakudis. It's not often you do see players at this level, obviously, with A-League experience to call on, but it's usually a handful of appearances here and there. And if they do have a lot of them, it's because maybe they're at the tail end of their careers. Mutakudis at 26 in the prime. So not just a great signing for the back end of this NPL season, but very handy player to have for the Australian Championship as well. Middleton. It's out Corey Cronin. The ball did stay in play off the return of Joe Lacey, who's nipped in at the heels of Franco Maya. You just have to be careful. Joe Lacey got a talking to from the referee already. It's his second foul in the first 20 minutes of this game. Bending ball is well marshalled by Kyle Shaw. Really clever. From the 21-year-old, he doesn't look it when you watch him play football. Physically imposing, mentally composed. It's no wonder we saw him get the chance at A-League level, albeit in bit part last season for Sydney FC. Former NWS Spirit defender. Glanced on by McAllister. Yeah, Sydney FC able to progress the ball into their third, but getting it any further than 15-20 yards has proved a tall task. They just cannot beat that line of Marconi defenders thus far. Something to ponder for Jimmy Van Wieren, whose midfield has been bypassed. Daniel turned into trouble, and Headley. Oh, foul throw. Oh, no. You don't see him too often, but you never love to see him when you do. Marko Jesic goes to ground. No whistle from the referee. As Ethan Dyer could only stab the ball out of play. Really want to keep an eye on, if you haven't seen him play in NPL New South Wales before, he'll be guilty of going early. This is only his 5th appearance in senior first grade NPL football, but you watch Ethan Dyer play today and you tell me if he looks like a player who was born in 2009. By a distance, the youngest out there today. Well over the reach of Franco Meyer. He appreciates the idea. Backheel doesn't work out from Cronin. Lacey will apply the pressure. Marconi are looking supremely well drilled today. Much more like their old self. Bayless turned into danger, but still manages to keep a cool head to direct it to Murakudis. Middleton away, only as far as Jesic. The transitional moments are just not opening up for Sydney FC thus far. Not having a lot of joy down that Tas Murakudis flank at present. Could that be about to change, though? Stab forward in the Joe Lacey direction. Could it sit for McAllister? Is there a penalty in the offing? No, says the referee. Danny Horsted. Williams back to Kalisic. McAllister was alert, but couldn't locate a teammate. Tyler Williams. Dylan Rose. Sydney just settling into this game, perhaps. Oh, that's not the best pass inside. From Dylan Rose. 19 years of age, but by my maths, making his 52nd appearance in first grade NPL New South Wales today, which is a very good figure for someone who is still only 19. Flying in was Costanzo. There's certainly some hustle and bustle in the midfield, but no sanction required by the referee. Not that Tyler Williams necessarily agrees. Flick-on finds Jesic, who pirouetted into problems. Kalisic, Meyer over his shoulder. It's a hopeful stab in the direction of Corey Cronin. He handled the pressure very well. Lacey never going to reach it regardless. Beautiful ball for Sekenis. Lifted towards Jesic. Kalisic always favoured and strikes firmly through it. They have been dominant in the possession stakes. They've applied more pressure to their opponents than vice versa, but yet to really trouble the goal of Gus Hofsloot. Beyond that Costanzo corner that nearly curled all the way in. Has not been much for Sydney FC's new senior number 1. That's the kit he's going to wear next year. In a literal term, figuratively, whether he usurps Harrison Devonish-Mears remains to be seen. That is the one knock on Marconi so far today. Is haven't been able to provide too much threat to go with their pressure. Yuli spins out of danger. Bernie. Kudus forced to retreat. Players casting long shadows into the turf today. 3 p.m. kickoff means we're facing into the setting sun. Bayless. Costanzo. Sydney snacked really deep at the moment with their defensive lines. Could this offer something up for Cronin? Not particularly is the answer. A free kick, nothing more. Of course, this game part of a bevy of concurrent fixtures across the league today. Great ball, well-intentioned, quite perfectly executed from Cronin to Headley. Sekenis tries to help it on its way for himself. Couldn't quite do it. Oh, Hofsloot, what's he done? Sekenis, yes, it's surely! Oh my goodness, it's in finally! A chaotic sequence. Utter chaos. And there's still a determination to be made. Hofsloot with a hospital pass right at the feet of Sekenis. Jesic hit it off both posts with an open goal to aim at. The ball was bundled in. And it's not going to count. Incredible. Well, a more chaotic sequence than that, you're going to struggle to see across NPL football this weekend. Just total madness for 30 seconds in a game that has been going along at a fairly leisurely pace. That just came out of absolutely nowhere. Do not see Marko Jesic cough up a chance like that very often, and I'm pretty sure that the final decision from the referees was that in his attempts to get the ball into the back of the net, Damien Sekenis fouled Kyle Shaw. You can make your own mind up at home, but that is a massive scare survived, and now a long shot is well controlled by Hilton, but Sydney FC finally get their own attack away. Well, how big a moment could that be in the context of this game? It's a poor touch from Cronin. Meyer. Oh, just an absolutely delightful switch for Costanzo. He has options to aim at. Could go it alone. Costanzo! Into the grateful arms of Gus Hofsloot, who is much more comfortable this time than he was last. think, I mean, Jesic couldn't have come much closer to scoring without actually doing it, but I just wonder if he and Damien Sekenis were almost stunned that they were able to have the opportunity in the first place. It was just... You could analyse the Zapruder film for hours and still not quite be able to know what was going through Gus Hofsluit's mind there. But it is a sign of how Sydney FC have found things so far in this game. Hanging on and hanging in, than giving as good as they are getting. And the ball over the top. Hofsluit again there, but having to double back quickly as Sekenis tries to turn provider again. Was the chip the better option? Marconi are having some real joy with that ball over the top early, asking some uncomfortable questions of the Sydney defence. That is one of the great things about this Stallions side at their best. They can be a really nice side to watch play football on the deck, although they've turned it over this time. And if they need to go route one, they can. Jesic. That was pretty cut and dry. Professional foul from one of this academy side's few professionals in Kyle Shaw. He becomes the first player into the book this afternoon. Wow. Really some very interesting scorelines across the grounds. Bring them to you in a second. Sekenis wheels around, not a lot in the way of support. Back to Bayless. And this now, of the 4-game Sunday that we've got in round 21, is the only goalless game. Central Coast Mariners lead Mount Druitt in a relegation 6-pointer at Plume Park. 1-0 the score there. As it breaks for McAllister. Couldn't bend the ball in. And Griffiths clears under duress, but before the ball trickled out of play and over the line. Northwest Sydney Spirit leading away at Sydney United, but the scoreline that will be of most fascination and perhaps motivation for those here at Marconi Stadium is the one over at the Illingdon Sports Centre. Rockdale trailing 1-0 to Sutherland. Not many would have foreseen that going into the game. So should that result hold, and there is of course so much football still to be played, all of those were concurrent kickoffs, it would leave Marconi with a chance to cut the 3-point gap that they currently have with Illingdon to zilch. It's a very half-hearted throw, and they've been the agents of their own downfall a lot of times this afternoon so far, Sydney FC. 2 foul throws on that side. Ethan Dyer, whose professionalism beyond his years I praised earlier, has committed a bit of a schoolboy error. So we can forgive him because he is literally a schoolboy. Burney. Dancing left and right. Tyron Burney, great run from the fullback. Will it open up for the shot? Not for him. Maybe Meyer. Blocked though by the Sky Blues. Sekenis keeps going. No flag. Damien Sekenis. Not the desired purchase. And all that Sydney FC have not handed to them on a platter, Marconi, has been fairly comfortable for the Sky Blues. Kalisic. Side foot for Cronin. No good. Not what the doctor ordered for the Sky Blues. Yuli rides one challenge and a second. Can't tee up Jasic. McAllister in an offside position. He's been up against some tricky defensive assignments at points this season. Matthias McAllister. Combination of Lockie Griffiths and Tasmilda Kudus. I imagine will be one of the toughest. George Daniel. Plenty of teammates either side. Heads for Costanza, who returns the favour and turned away for a corner by Kyle Shaw. So the 38th minute, 39th minute rather, football approaches Marconi Stadium. We still are, as we started, level and goalless. Costanzo will get yet another chance to change that. But not before referee Danny Horsted has some sorting out to do. Hasn't quite been at his best where the numbers are concerned this season, Dom Costanzo. He's gone 14 goal contributions or more, so both goals and assists every season he's been at Marconi. There's 2 goals and 5 assists so far this season. But he add to the tally here. It's a tantalising delivery, punched away by Hofsloot. And Lacey, firm contact through the back, and I don't think George Daniel can have too many complaints about the resultant free kick. It's still supplying goals for others with regularity this season, Dom Costanzo, but just the 2 goals this season. And scored in over a month, not since the away trip to Sutherland Sharks. A far cry from his double-digit tally last year. Does have a good scoring record against today's opponents, though. He's scored 3 against them. Yuli. Side of the foot pass finds Hilton with time and space, and now Daniel and Costanzo with some pasture to work with. The pass not the best though from Yuli. Rose. But it's stuck underneath his feet. The nibble from the Stallions' defence enough to afford Sydney a throw. Firmly away by Murdakudis. Jasic. Squeezed out as it gets a little acrimonious between a few players. Meyer showed too much of the ball to Tyler Williams. Kalisic for Corey Cronin. Jared Middleton. Bernie. Nice pass from Griffiths. Bayless not quite able to honour it. Griffiths is going to have to be on his toes defensively, and he was. And so too was James Bayless. having his best run of consistent football since arriving at Marconi. Of course, we know his injury struggles last year. And his injury return at the back end of last season, and has started all 30 games since. He's one of 3 outfielders who have played every minute for Marconi this year. George Daniel. Costanzo looking to dip into his trick bag again, but not fooling Ethan Dyer. Well, given how close Marconi have been to scoring, albeit in just the one moment in this game without actually scoring, Sydney FC, I reckon, will be pretty happy should they head into the break. Level pegging with the reigning champions. This is an interesting one. Marko Jesic. He's lining up to take a long throw. Here it comes, and he gets pretty good purchase on it as well. Sekenis couldn't provide a telling touch. Jesic bent his run, left it cleverly because he was offside. Costanzo wasn't. A bit of trickery earns an extra bit of yardage. Territory gain for Marconi. And perhaps another long throw from Marko Jesic. In it comes. Griffiths lurking. Nodded it into a reasonable spot. McAllister. Manages to get away from the snapping studs of Marconi midfielders. Finding it tough getting it any further than that. And Shaw, feeling the heat, concedes another corner. Interesting that Marko Jesic just decided seemingly out of nowhere to start taking long throws on that side, just to mix it up. Most of his teammates are a little slow on the uptake, but that's the sign of a good captain, a man who's just taking it upon himself to try and move the magnets around and make something happen for Marconi. In it comes from Costanzo, and firmly struck as well. Sekenis comes away with it. Curls it in. Oh! Whizzing past the goal frame was the header from Jesic. He will go into the sheds at halftime should this one end goalless, in disbelief as to how he has not managed to score in this first half. He's only had 2 chances. They have been golden ones. The delivery from Damien Sekenis was really sharp as well. Yuli, Middleton, well placed and well read. Kept alive by Bernie. That ball didn't go out of play beforehand. Yes. Bernie. Tamaya lost the ball in its movement. Lacey. Cleaning up was Murakudis. Costanzo. Is there one last chance in the first half for the champions? Not from that one. And not at all. It is as we were at the start of this massive round 21 clash at halftime. Sydney FC and Marconi Stallions can't be split after 45 minutes played. But how different things could have been in the game's admittedly scant few flashpoint moments, but what it lacked in quantity of chances, it certainly made up for in quality. Marconi go in level, but they will definitely be feeling that it should have been different. They had a goal disallowed for a foul by Damien Sekenis, who tucked it home after Marko Jesic hit both posts, and it was the Marconi captain who went closest after that. His header right before the halftime break, flying past the post of Gus Hofsloot. And well, it hasn't been for lack of trying. It is all square at the break. A big second 45 to come at Marconi Stadium. The halftime score, Marconi Stallions 0, Sydney FC 0. It's a really big 45 minutes that awaits us at Marconi Stadium in the context of the race for the Premier's Plate. Goalless here after 45 minutes played between the reigning champions Marconi Stallions and Sydney FC. But if the home side can change that, they may well gain ground on the ladder leaders Rockdale Illendon, who find themselves currently locked at 1 apiece with the Sutherland Sharks. Can the Stallions keep pace with the would-be premiers, or will Sydney FC keep their fleeting finals hopes alive and end their run of 6 consecutive defeats to the Stallions? Well, let's find out. Costanzo looking to make things happen early, but that's pretty comfortably dealt with in the end by Kyle Shaw. And if you are just joining us and missed the first 45 minutes action, they were not a glut of chances to speak of for either side, but those that Marconi did have were of significant threat to the goal of Gus Hofsloot. One of them afforded to the Stallions by Sydney FC's keeper, a poor pass to Damien Sekenis. Saw Marko Jesic hit both posts with an empty net to work with. And Damien Sekenis' eventual goal disallowed for a foul on Kyle Shaw after he managed to turn it in. And then right before Danny Horsted brought us in for half-time, Marko Jesic flicked a header past the front post. And that is the difference in the setting sun of Sydney's West between the Stallions' lead and where we currently find ourselves positioned, which is level pegging at Marconi Stadium between these two, which, oh, hello Lockie Griffiths, very nice indeed. Which, if it were to hold at full time, would be an NPL New South Wales first. They have drawn before in their head-to-head meetings, Marconi and Sydney, but never split the points here in Bosley Park. It is a head-to-head record that, owing to those 6 straight head-to-head wins against the Sky Blues, sees Marconi well in control of. 10 wins to Sydney FC's 4. 3 years since the Sky Blues last took 3 points from the Stallions. And the compounding factor of that is not only have they lost a number of games on the run against Marconi, they have found it nigh on impossible to score against them as well. It's over 600 minutes now of head-to-head football these two have had since, well, now Portsmouth's Adrian Segicic scored against the Stallions in May 2023. Valentine Sports Park, as that's fired across the box. Lacey will look to collect and couldn't, but the final touch off Tyron Burney. It's actually, despite the goalless 45 today, and Sydney FC struggles in front of it against Marconi in recent years, it's a game that usually delivers a fair whack of goals as well. An average of 3.5 in their 16 head-to-head meetings. And now Marconi would take just 1. And could they take it here? Costanzo has slipped the defence, who cover back quickly. Costanzo twisting and turning, and not really getting the desired purchase in the end. Rather cut across the ball rather than striking firmly through it. ball striking is not an area that evades the Marconi ace too frequently. Long time since he's found the back of the net here at Marconi Stadium. Over 300 days now. Headley. McAllister scrapping for it. Certainly a fair bit of energy coming out of the halftime interval. Yesic given one to chase. Re-engaging his battle from the first half with Jared Milton. And it is the youngster who wins out this time around. You imagine that it wouldn't have been mentioned. Lacey found offside that time around. It wouldn't have been mentioned by Peter Sekenis in his halftime team talk. The score over at the Illingdon Sports Centre. You know, a coach would never do that, but it doesn't stop you from wondering whether or not they might have, because that would be a significant motivation. For the Stallions. Should that 1-1 scoreline between Rockdale and Sutherland still be the same? I admittedly haven't checked the score in the last couple of minutes. You may know better than me if you're watching on at home. Middleton launches it away. They cannot once again beat that line of Marconi defenders, which has been reinvigorated by Tas Mordakudis' entrance. A headline new signing. For the Stallions in the transfer window. Boatload of corners in the first half, Marconi. Can they make one stick here? Mudakudis flicks it into the penalty spot. And away by Lacey. Been a half-field game the last couple of minutes. Stallions trying to put the squeeze on their youthful academy opponents. Bayless. Back to Hilton, and confirmation that it is still 1-1 between Illingdon and the Sharks. The Mariners have doubled their advantage against Mount Druitt. That is a really big result for them. Should it hold? Not the desired pass from Tyron Burney that time around. And the other game, Northwest Sydney still 1-0 in the ascendancy of Sydney United at Adenza Park. Some 5-10 minutes up the road from here. Or was it down the road from here? I can never remember. Either way, it's close by. Headley collected by another former Mariners Youth Academy player, George Daniel. Those two have both previously called Gosford home. Here is Tay Headley. Cut out by Yuli. It's been a good addition to the youth setup of the Sky Blues, Tay Headley, this year. Appearances, 3 goals, 3 assists. Certainly some talent in the boots. Dylan Rose, robbed of it by Costanzo. A little flick, picks up Meyer. It's a Bayless. Good play this from Marconi. Burney It'll drop for Costanzo. And now Daniel, the fullback. Sends it leaping into the air. The spillage falls for Tyron Burney. Bayless couldn't bend it in. And no shot materializes at the end of that move. Just a little check of my notes tells me that we've also had a substitution for Sydney FC. I'll bring you more on that later because it is an exciting one for the particular player. Headley bought time and space for Rose, who wasn't quite on the same wavelength as Matthias McAllister. He's trying to slip the last line of Marconi defenders. Ball over the top. Sekenis. The byline battling with Middleton. The back heel for Burney. Bayless is at the top of the box in an acre. And he went to curl again. The Stallions a little gun shy at the minute. Good leave by Burney. Can Meyer find something? Franco Meyer finds the turf. And the referee obliges. Sydney FC protest, but the Stallions are going to get a spot kick. And it is Franco Meyer's industry down the right that makes the difference. Legged on the edge of the box by Joseph Kalisic, and Danny Horsted took a little bit of time to think about it before eventually pointing to the spot. And who better to have standing over that spot for Marconi than Marco Jesic, their leader, with 7 goals against Sydney FC to his name in the past. Will it be an all-important 8th? Up steps Marco Jesic. He's missed. It's stunning. Marconi fans have rarely seen it. They can even more scarcely believe it. Marco Jesic steps up to the spot and blazes over the frame of goal. He has left his shooting boots at home today. Marconi's goal-scoring ace. He has had the first, or the third, the second, and now the first in terms of best chances to score in this game. And it has evaded him at every occasion. A header past the post. A shot with an open goal off both posts, and now a penalty miss. Uncharacteristic from the captain, but Marconi have come about as close as you can get in a game to scoring without actually doing it. You would just never expect Marco Jesic to cough up so many golden chances. The man who's scored 122 goals in his last 11 league campaigns in NPL New South Wales. Or just in New South Wales, NPL football more broadly. Of course, that includes stints in the second tier with Marconi. The less said about that period, the better. Long ball headed away by Griffiths. In came Lacey, and it's a free kick for Sydney FC. A card for Lockie Griffiths. And the contact is being debated, but the referee's decision, a final one. Griffiths, in fairness, did come flying in. How much of Joe Lacey he collected, I guess, is a matter of opinion. A matter for debate. In any case, it's Sydney FC set piece. Marko Jesic will have wondered if he missed a ladder this week that he might have walked under, put up on the wrong side of bed, whatever it was. It's allowed Sydney FC to stay alive. And they have this set piece from which they could potentially take the lead, but not with a delivery like that. Ooh. Across the body. And collected that time. It was Damien Sekenis by very young defender Ethan Dyer. Good use of the body by Damien Sekenis, who drives it on goal. What a finish! At long last, the deadlock breaks. Thanks to a super strike from the Stallion striker. Damien Sekenis gets the job done. And is that a goal? Is that a lead for Marconi that could set about another change in this race for the league title? It's just a massive moment for Marconi. A weight lifted off the shoulders. And Damien Sekenis said, well, if my strike partner isn't going to get it done, I'll step up and be the man. And the wave of relief that washes over those of a Marconi persuasion here, it's almost palpable. Good turn that time by Williams. Could the Sky Blues answer back quickly? No. That shot rather lacking in conviction. But it's just a superb finish from Damien Sekenis. Such a tight angle to work with. Just positively drilled it past Gus Hofsloot. And the irony of it all is that the Stallions have not been able to capitalise time and again on their gilt-edge chances. It is one of their most difficult. It proves to be the difference maker. And now we rush to see just how big a goal that could be for the reigning champions. Well, very big, in fact, because Sutherland have retaken their lead out at the Illingdon Sports Centre. And that goal coming in the 60th minute out at Rockdale. Sekenis's coming in the 61st here at Marconi Stadium. Is that a moment that we could look back on as 60 seconds that turned the title race back in the favour of the Stallions? Nor does Sydney FC have a response available to them. It's going to have to break their hoodoo in front of goals against the Stallions. And we know what a good team Peter Sekenis' outfit are at defending their leads for the most part. 8 clean sheets this season, the equal most of any side in the competition. And other than that, 2-2 draw with St George FC at Barton Park a fortnight ago. I'm struggling to think of many, if any, instances, or any other instances, where Marconi have taken the lead and gone on not to extract all 3 points. McAllister back to Tyler Williams. And all the way home for Hofsloot. So one ball sent in the direction of that earlier substitute that, owing to the penalty and the subsequent goal for Sekenis, we never got to mention. But the number 18 of Oscar Guletkin, Gultekin, I should say, 18-year-old who has come on for his senior first grade debut for Sydney FC, formerly of the Wanderers Academy, and spent time in Turkey as well. 5 goals in 6 appearances for the under-20s this season. We have a number of less experienced faces that sit on the bench for Sydney today. We may see more of them in the minutes to come. So they do need a bit of a spark if they are going to have their say on this game. Matthias McAllister fighting a one-man mission at the moment and fighting forlornly. Bernie used his body well. Meyer, great first touch to open up acreage. And it's through the legs of the defender, Costanzo. A massive moment for Marconi. And Dom can't double the advantage. Sydney FC survive. Dylan Rose. Slightly better odds here where the numbers are concerned for Sydney. McAllister. Lacey. Tay Headley now. Frees up the feet, does Tay Headley, but it's not got the venom to trouble the goalkeeper, the quality of James Hilton. First NPL appearance in succession today for the 22-year-old James Hilton. Just a colossus of a goalkeeper in this competition. The fancy footwork not deceiving Kalisic. Costanzo. Yuli. Costanzo again. Well read that one by Dyer. Hot one to handle for Lacey. Gultekin able to make it work. Line-breaking pass. Really nicely judged by Lockie Griffiths. If he did get himself stuck under the ball subsequently after the quality read. Hamilton trying to move the Magnets. It's a game that certainly feels like it could be decided by a solitary goal. I've seen enough football to say that it has the feel of 1-0 to it, but that is not to say that the Stallions would sniff at a second. They would love an insurance policy in this game, because if you've not been paying attention, an insurance policy win today, with Sutherland still leading at Rockdale, would mean we are level on points at the top of the table between the Stallions and Rockdale Illendon. The other part of that, I mean, the points are important. Making sure the 3 points are safe today, that's important, of course, but given how tight these two sides have run each other over the course of this season, dare I say it, goal difference could become very important, and that is an area where Rockdale have got a real advantage. Costanzo in and then out. There was a collision of bodies in the penalty area. The ball was, in truth, a million miles away from all of them. Going to be a raft of Sydney FC substitutions on the way here. It's currently a 16-goal difference between Rockdale and Marconi, so any ground they could make up could be very important. Let's try to get a sense of these substitutions. So Samuel Lancaster and Reef Farias are 2/3 of the players who have come on, as it nearly broke for Gultekin that time. Lancaster. And the final entrant into the game is an interesting one we'll talk about in a moment. Gultekin loses out to Griffiths. Up and under from Costanzo. Sekenis loses out to Middleton. Farias. So it's interesting that Jimmy Van Wieren has changed both of the fullbacks as part of his triple change. Joseph Kalisic and Ethan Dyer both departing the field of play. The other half of that fullback switch means we do have a first grade debut, not in NPL New South Wales, but for Sydney FC, for the relative of a very famous name in Australian football. And it is that of Nick Zdrilic, who is the nephew of former Socceroo, former Sydney FC assistant and player, and current Perth Glory boss, David Zdrilic, former Beach Socceroo, of course. It's not quite as memorable as the rest of the rap sheet, but still worth mentioning. 18-year-old Nick Zdrilic on for the first time as a Sydney FC player. He's formerly been part of the Hajduk Split Youth Academy. Originally a Sydney United junior, and here he is on the ball. Nick Zdrilic. Just to ride the pressure that came left and right from Marconi markers. If you are a real NPL head or NPL sicko, you may recognize the name from when he debuted in first grade for United at 15 a couple of years ago, as Costanzo gets on the march. Costanzo cuts it square and turned away by Kyle Shaw. Big 15 minutes to come at Marconi Stadium and over at Illendon. The way this game has gone, you feel a second for Marconi would make the points surely safe. As they go short this time, switching it up. Jesic for Costanzo, great curling delivery. No telling target. Sydney FC getting the final touch, so out for another corner. He has been a busy boy, Dom Costanzo, this afternoon. Well, in the end, he's decided against. Franco Maya is going to take the far side delivery. Players potted along the top of the penalty area. Trying to meet this from Maya. It's foot's on by Griffiths and into the top of the net. Another Sydney sub en route. Dylan Rose, whose day comes to an end. It's replaced by another one of the very young players who was added to the substitutes bench today, Junior Conde. Under 17 Australian Youth International. Back in the first grade side for the first time since the start of June. And he scored not far from here at Adenza Park against Sydney United. Great fast feet from Sekenis. Clipped through the back by Samuel Lancaster. Yuli in a real safe pair of hands today. Maya. Bernie was making a good run. The ball will never reach him. Headley on the drive. And clip from behind. Maya was maybe trying to make up for his misgiving. And after Peter Sekenis has sat there while 4 Sydney FC outfielders have made their way onto the field, he's going to answer back with his own change. And curiously, it's the end of what has been thus far a very successful Marconi debut for Tas Mordekudis. You would have to imagine maybe just not at full fitness. Making his first appearance for the club. And so on comes 20-year-old Sebastian Kachik. Hilton with a confident claim. We did see Kachik come on last week at the 66-minute mark for his Marconi debut to replace Lockie Griffiths, of course, himself on the comeback trail to full fitness after an injury last month. Still a couple of tantalizing attacking options for Peter Sekenis, should he really desire to search out a second in this game. Not the best from Farias that time. A cheap corner conceded. Not that Marconi have been able to punish them all that effectively so far today. Mate Busek and Jake True both still on the pine. Costanzo, ooh, side netting. Hasn't really been able to get the radar in today, Dom Costanzo. Dare I say it, the mark of a champion team. Which, of course, Marconi are hoping to be league champions as well at the end of a 30 games regular season. Well, and champions of the postseason as well. He's winning when you are off colour. And I think Costanzo's corners, the chances that Marko Jesic has missed so uncharacteristically, I think there is an argument to be made that Marconi have been a little off colour today. And yet, they could find themselves gaining ground on Illendon by the end of round 21. That's how important these gritty ground-out performances and wins can be. But they're not there yet. 10 minutes to go at Marconi Stadium. I expect there will be one final flourish from Sydney FC. Of course, still a faint hope that they can potentially make a dash to the finals. They could pick up at least a point on Sydney United, who sit in 6th. Even that would still leave them 5 points back, but still doable with 9 games to go. In came Costanzo. Conde and McAllister combined. Great turn from Lacey. And a rare release for Zdrilic. Yeah, in comes Daniel to deal with the danger. They've had the answer to every Sydney FC attack today. And while the Sky Blues have held on in the game, it has been a virtue of their defensive solidity and not their attacking threat. Gultekin away by Kachik. Conde loses out to Burney. And Sekenis given one to chase. Middleton making up the ground. And you reckon will have his measure this time around? He does. So we can't understate, can't forget that it is 3 weeks, 3 games without a win for Marconi. A month since the last time they tasted victory. To cheek away. They have been stumbling, and yet they could find themselves on the other end of that stumble on the same amount of points as Rockdale Illendon. Meyer. Will that hold up for Costanzo? It will, but he had to drive his body into the turf to keep it alive. McAllister. Lacey cut across by Yuli. Easy decision for Danny Horsted. kick to be retaken. It would set Marconi up nicely for a run of games they would see as being seriously winnable. The derby against Sydney United next week here at Bosley Park will be the big test, but then they travel to take on Western Sydney Wanderers at Rudy Hill before travelling to take on St George City. So there's some winnable games in there. There are no points that they can afford to drop. To keep situations like this at bay, and they do. Farias lost the ball. Hilton all too happy to take the sting out of it. Getting closer and closer, the Stallions. Bernie. 5 minutes left to play. Yuli with Conde closing. Farias around Costanzo. Moves it nicely for Gultekin. A rare bit of space for Sydney FC. The 18-year-old. Clips it over the top. The flag doesn't come up. And Tay Headley blazes away, far and away the biggest chance of the afternoon for Sydney FC. Oh, the Stallions back four throws. Gultekin picked a pass that no one saw coming. And Headley in the end rather rushed things. It's going to be a bevy of substitutes for Peter Sekenis this time. Damien Sekenis, Marco Jesic and Dom Costanzo all replaced. And the triumvirate of new names, Jake True, Mate Busek, and the man I forgot to mention when I was rattling off the outfield substitutes, could provide some extra attacking firepower, Kyle Chimenti. Shame on me for forgetting Kyle Chimenti. Set piece for those substitutes to attack. Whistled in by Meyer, Hofsloot. Doing his job with diligence. Yuli, it's another foul from him, no card. Ball left to run by McAllister for Tay Headley. Gets the beating of Bernie nearly. Strilich. Good first touch. Great ball. McAllister, he doesn't need much of a shooting angle. Matthias McAllister hits to the byline. Big wave of the arms from Danny Horsted. And now the substitute. The fresh legs of Mate Busek come the other way. Is there a dramatic flourish to this game? Meyer bends the ball in the Chimenti direction. It's a fantastic first touch. Meyer. Convincing clearance. The second ball all important, and it breaks the way of Sydney. Put to life by Daniel. No handball, says the referee. Daniel keeps on going unperturbed. And the throw-in goes the way of the Stallions. Check around the grounds. Sutherland is still with a 2-1 lead against Rockdale. 88 minutes played at the Illington Sports Centre, but we know But Rockdale do have a penchant for the late show, so that one by no means a certainty of staying that way. But if it does, the title race will be back on fire again. Courtesy of a much-needed win for Marconi. Free kick taken short, so Peter Sekenis' side have rather given up the ghost of searching for a second. They weren't able to chew up too much time in the end. So we make our way to the final minute. Start casting our eye towards the fourth official, James Macris. His board will be a very important one for the home fans, and will they like what they see? I'm not sure. 4 minutes of stoppage time to come. One last flourish perhaps for Sydney to steal a point. Pumped away by George Daniel. Bayless, a booming ball, asking the most of Meyer, and he is equal to it. Franco Meyer, the sensational, isn't going to happen this time from the Stallion star. Absolute caught it. Lacey, was he legged? Feel the tension in the air at Marconi Stadium. Stallions fans on tenterhooks. Their team may not know the scores elsewhere, but they most certainly will. Everyone except the 11 with a massive awareness of what this win could mean. Griffiths. He's been a warrior today. Busek was coming back from an offside position, or rather it was true. Zrilic. Headley. McAllister. Collected, but all fair in the eyes of the referee. Farias. Flying in comes George Daniel. Seconds slipping away for Sydney. Conde. Lacey. Shaw. It's a decent ball. Hilton Rose. And collected. And your fancy won't be in much of a rush to get it moving again. Into the setting sun it goes. Side-footed into an inviting area for Marconi. Busek. Can he put the full stop on this contest? Mate Busek! He couldn't have come much closer. He's got some special talent in that right foot when he cuts inside. In a game that has been at points lacking in quality. That could have been a moment of it, to put an exclamation point on what would have been and could still be a massive 3 points for Marconi Stallions. Liam Muley's day is done. Julian Monge, the last outfielder onto the pitch for Peter Sekenis. Busek trying to turn on the Jets. Farias favoured. Lacey. The flick is going to work for Lancaster, but his teammate, his reinforcement, wasn't there. The call of 30 seconds drifts around. Who's in the sky blue shirts? True turns. It's the turf. And Marconi get there. It wasn't pretty, but it is very big. Marconi Stallions make a big statement in the title race. 1-0 winners, courtesy of a super second half goal from Damien Sekenis. It extends their run of wins against Sydney FC to a 7th consecutive. Not a game that will go down in history for its quality, but it could certainly go down as a match that changed the race for the Premier's Plate. Because as we end round 21, it is all level atop the table again. Sutherland go down. We'll go up to Illendon and spring a surprise. And Marconi will ready and waiting, courtesy of Damien Sekenis. And on to next week.